Hey guys, I'm Justin Walter, and joining me is Kristen Brockman. She is a philanthropist, a cystic fibrosis advocate, a host, and a mom. So thank you so much for joining us, Kristen.
Hi, Justin. So good to see your face.
I know, all these Zoom interviews and doing it over Zoom is so different than in person. But first of all, can you share with us your inspiring story of why you are a cystic fibrosis advocate?
Sure. My little sister, Kelsey, she passed away from cystic fibrosis when she was 26 years old. Cystic fibrosis is a disease that you're born with. So I always wanted to help her from the beginning. But when I was about 22 years old, I moved to Los Angeles, California, and I was to pursue my career. And I was very far away from my sister in Kentucky, and she's 8 years younger than me, so she was still, I think, in high school then. I was really looking for a way that I could help her being so far away. And one of the things I decided to do then was get involved with the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation and start fundraising and doing events to hopefully help find the cure for cystic fibrosis.
And so for someone who's not familiar with what cystic fibrosis actually is, in a nutshell, can you explain what the disease is?
Cystic fibrosis is a lung disease primarily. It's a lung and digestive disease, but it essentially affects all organs in the body because, like most diseases, there's a lot of medications and treatments that you have to do, and those eventually end up affecting all of the other parts of your body. But the average life expectancy right now for a person with CF is about 47 years old. Okay. In 1990, when my sister was born, the average life expectancy was only about 25 years old.
Oh my gosh. It's over 20 years, which is incredible. One thing I want to share with everybody and have you talk about is the unbucket list. So this is something you started after Kelsey passed. So what is the unbucket list?
That was my question when I first came across it. What is an unbucket list? So I would say, it was a few days after my sister passed away. She had always told me if she were to pass away, because that was an unfortunate potential reality for her, that she was leaving a file on her computer of kind of her last request. And I found one called the Unbucket List. Okay. And it had a list of things that you might find on a bucket list. And they were things I had heard her talk about doing, I knew she wanted to do. Because when I looked up Unbucket List, some people think that's a list of things you never want to do. Yeah. So for her, I think it was just like a normal bucket list, but she didn't think she would live long enough to complete it. So it was
found
kind of the opposite.
Bucket list, and you took, obviously the sad passing of your sister at a young age, and then turned it into an inspirational story and a positive, where you're fundraising, trying to complete this unbucket list. And the goal is, how much is your goal that you're trying to raise?
$100,000.
$100,000. And what are you at currently today?
Almost to 75.
$75,000 is a ton of money that you single-handedly have raised through various efforts. So let's talk about the unbucket list. One of the biggest items on it that I know you did during your honeymoon. What?
Well, it's a very typical bucket list item, I think, for most people. Very big one up there was skydiving, which I just did not want to do. Justin, I'm not the brave one of the group. Anytime I'm anywhere with anybody, I'm not the most adventurous one. So I really, really, really didn't want to do this.
So what was it like for you experiencing that in Bora Bora on your honeymoon over the islands of Tahiti and feeling the presence of Kelsey with you during that experience?
Amazing! That was awesome! Thank you, Kelsey!
Well, obviously, I chose to do it in Bora Bora because it's one of the most beautiful drop zones. But
you can't find a better skydiving spot.
Oh my gosh! when I saw it, I was like, okay, this is it. This is where I'm supposed to do it.
So smart, yeah.
Obviously, I was terrified, but it ended up being. You've gone skydiving before. It was one of the most magical. I felt like the feeling I got jumping out of that plane was like I was landing on another planet. It was very euphoric, and I had heard that when we flew up, there was a huge rainbow. Oh. And I've had some rainbows on some of the other bucket list items that I've done.
Wow.
it just kind of gave me the peace to know like I'm going to be okay and my sister is watching me, and I just wanted to make her proud. I'm really doing this just to make her proud.
Oh my gosh, you're making her so proud. And
let her memory live on.
Other items on the list, I've actually gotten to do 2 of these items with you. So let's talk about the first one that we did together. You took a trip to where for Halloween?
To New Orleans.
Yes.
Which I'd actually been to before, but it was a new experience doing it for.
Why do you think New Orleans was on the list for your sister?
I just think it's a play, my sister, some of the items weren't these huge things like skydiving. They were things like, go to New Orleans, because she spent so much of her life in the hospital that just to go to some places that other people wouldn't think were bucket list items were big deals for her. And I picked you to go with me.
I
would be an idiot not to ask you to go with me. Anybody who wants to go on any kind of trip, you got to take her.
We had a great time, and it was awesome to experience that with you. And then going to Chicago and being there at the same time with you when you did an item on the list that so many people ask me about when they see it, and I'm sure you as well. So share, what was that item you checked off the list in Chicago?
I do think this is everybody's favorite. She wanted to hug a sloth.
Yes.
Which was probably the most unique item on the list. I've always known that she's wanted to do that. I actually looked into it before she even passed away.
Oh. There we go.
Wish I could have brought Kelsey here to do this.
Just kind of quickly go through the other stops on the list, the ones that you've done and haven't done yet.
Sure. So there was one item that already had a check mark by it, which was San Francisco, which I had no idea was even on her list. But I had taken her to San Francisco when she came to visit me in LA once. We did a road trip up the California coast. It was so amazing. And I was so happy that she got to actually do one.
Yeah.
I walked her the year before last. My mom and I drove from Kentucky to New York to walk her dogs in Central Park.
Amazing.
Which was very fun because they're like very small town Kentucky dogs, right? Who just go outside to grass and pee, and that's about it. So to go to the park was it was literally like a comedy movie about 2 small town dogs in the big city.
I love it. Yeah, and then what's left? You still have to go on a cruise, correct?
I have to go on a cruise, which obviously ain't happening during a global pandemic.
Yeah, put a pin on that one.
I have to go to Bahamas, and I have to go to Atlantis when I'm in the Bahamas. She wanted to go there since she was 12 years old.
And you'll have to go shark diving when you're in the Bahamas.
I know, and I'm hoping to take my whole family on like a vacation there so they can be a part of it.
Yeah.
And one that's added on there, because my mom had a video that she found on her phone after Kelsey coming out of a procedure on her medication, on her drugs. And she was saying, before I die, I want to see Britney Spears in Las Vegas. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Working on that. I was working.
Put it on the list. So if anybody wants to follow, your story and learn more about cystic fibrosis, where can you direct them to do that?
The easiest place is to go to theunbucketlist.com. And then you can follow me on pretty much all social handles except Twitter, I'm not on, but Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. It's just at The Unbucket List or / The Unbucket List.
Well, Kristen, thank you so much for taking the time to share your story. The work you do with cystic fibrosis is incredible. I mean, beyond this, you also host a podcast. You run an annual event every year that raises a ton of money at the Rose Bowl. You're all over it. And I know that Kelsey will be super proud and happy with all the work you do for not only her memory, but for the organization as well.
Thank you. And I'm lucky to have a friend like you that supports everything I do. So thank you.
Here to support, and definitely check out Kristen and Kelsey's story. And if you have any money, donate. And if you don't, just share the cause, share the work that Kristen is doing. And thank you so much, Kristen.
Thank you, Justin.